in the next session. We will go beyond. We will reach out to neuro regions, meaning outside the European borders, moving into the internationalization aspect. So I have the pleasure to launch the next session and to moderate this session as well. It will be a hybrid session with two people in person. Catherine Diot, International Aid and Cooperation Officer for Science, Technology and Innovation from DG INPA, European Commission. Benjamin Coates, Head of Long-Term Action Section, Climate Action, Sustainability and Science Department, European Space Agency. And online, we will have Her Excellency Thandikile Vundula, Vice President of the African Space Council, African Space Agency, and Labali Touré, President of RPAG and CEO and founder of Geomatica. So I invite panelists to come on stage. So, and maybe we can see as well the two panelists contributing online. So internationalization is really an important topic for the private sector and the European private sector. Already, SMEs, it's an important topic. Why? First, because a substantial number of companies are SMEs in Europe, and for them, it can be really difficult to access this market and to reach out to users outside the European borders, on one hand. On the other hand, they have the capabilities, they have the knowledge, technical ones, but the connection with the local knowledge is often missing. Need to be tuned, adapt, in order to fit the complete need of the users on the other side. Despite a lot of similar needs in different parts of the globe, and when we look in the different projects we are involved in the needs of the different local authorities in Europe or in other places, Latin America, where we had the opportunity to go, or Africa more recently, we can see that the needs are quite similar. But there is a tuning. And this is where the collaboration between different entities on the two sides of the Mediterranean Sea, for example, in the context of Africa, is really sound. How can we really stimulate the uptake globally of the European capability, make use of the existing capabilities, make them available, develop the capabilities on both sides in order to really facilitate at the end the life of all the citizens in the current climate adaptation we have to deal with. A lot of different companies are already involved in many countries. It's not new. Companies are really active, but it can be mainly triggered generally by European institutions, World Bank. For example, we have the GDA activity along by ESA, and some of the members in this room are already been involved in this activity. GMES for Africa is obviously a flagship. It is live for since 2017. But what we can see and what has been signed in January this year is this new partnership between EU and the EU, Africa-European Space Partnership, part of the global strategy. And this is really a game changer. See a lot of opportunities to come, but rather than developing this, I think you are most suitable for define what it is and explain this to the community that we have today, both here and online. So first, I would like to, because we have some newcomers, I would say, in this panel, provide you with the opportunity to express, define who you are, the role of your organization in this Africa-EU space landscape. I will start maybe first with Catherine, DG INPA, please.
Thank you, Emmanuel. It's working? Yes. Thank you, Emmanuel, and good morning all. It's really a pleasure to be here and to have a specific session dedicated to Africa and to the Africa-EU Space Partnership Program. DG INPA, and as you mentioned in the title in the session, has been already a long actor in the partnership with Africa on Earth observation. I think since already 20 years we are working through GMS in Africa, you mentioned, but we have also other ongoing programs on climate change, protected areas that are making use of Earth observation. So the cooperation with Africa on space is not new. Now, what is new and what is the role of DG INPA is also to, in the context of the global gateway, which is about securing investment in quality infrastructure, but also connecting people, goods, services. This is where DG INPA sees an opportunity for space cooperation. So not only Earth observation, but also satellite navigation, connectivity. So we are really expanding in DG INSPA the role of the space partnership to also other, let's say, space technologies. We are also thinking about transformative activities, and this is again where we see space cooperation as a key tool to reach long-term sustainable impact. We were talking, and Philippe was talking about sustainability. I think this is really a way we see space cooperation and Earth observation having a key role on that. This is for the role of DG INPA in the space cooperation. Now we have a specific role in the program, but I think it will come
later. Thank you. Then I invite Her Excellency Tandy Kile Vundura from AFSA.
Good morning, Emmanuel, and all the members of the panel and all present. It's an honor to be here. It's particularly special that there's been so much work that has been done already between the African Union and now in the African Space Agency and the European Union. I'm basically with the where we are coming from. The African Space Agency is a Pan-African institution which was established as a specialized organ of the African Union under the African Space Agency Act, established to coordinate and promote the peaceful use and development of space science, technology, and applications across all the AU member states. We are headquartered and located in Cairo, in Egypt, and we're officially inaugurated on April 20th, 2025, making this a major milestone for Africa's coordinated space ambitions. And here we'd also like to note and acknowledge that as a key partner, the European Space Agency the African Space Agency now becomes only the second continental multinational space agency in the world. And I was reminded that this year, of course, the European Space Agency marks its 50th anniversary. So going forward, when AFSA will be marking its 50th anniversary, the European Space Agency will now be 100. So it really is commendable. And there was an opportunity during the integration for the AFSA and the European Union to sign an MOU, an agreement for the the SPP, the EU SPP. So while AFSA is based in Egypt, its core mission is to coordinate and promote the development and utilization of space science, technology, and applications across Africa to support sustainable economic, social, and environmental development. When we look, as was mentioned earlier, we're really looking as AFSA to ensure that we utilize our resources in Earth observation, satellite navigation, astronomy, and so on, to the benefit of the African continent, and looking at facilitating both intra-African and international collaboration in space. So AFSA is a central coordinating body for the African space initiatives. And we look at the partnership that we have established with European agencies such as European Space Agency, which focus currently on joint Earth observation missions, satellite communications, capacity building, technology transfer, and looking at these being integrated into the space efforts for and its participation in the global space ecosystems. So while AFSA is relatively new, it's a relatively new institution, it doesn't come without a history. And what we have done is we bring in the previous experience that we've had with the European Union, such as the GMES and Africa program, which has been a flagship Pan-African initiative in the field of Earth observation, which has been implemented over the past 8 years with the European Union. The GMES in Africa, of course, successfully established a vibrant continent-wide community of specialized experts, researchers, private sector actors working in Earth observation. So we look at this going forward as only strengthening the work that we do, that the African Union has been doing with the European Union going forward.
Thank you very much. Then, Benjamin, I think a lot of people know you here and know very well ESA, but could you please introduce the association, your entity?
Yep. Thank you. I hope you hear me. Good.
Yes.
No, yeah, thank you actually to set up this panel between Europe and Africa and really focusing in this case on the private sector part, which I think is really the place where we have to invest much more. Since, I mean, you say, yes, we know each other, but I mean, we normally work in Europe, or we work with Europe between European stakeholders. So that is something which we're trying to change. It's not a new type of activity we are doing, but we're actually looking back on 25 years of history in collaboration with Africa. Actually, our current Director General started the cooperation in 2002 at the Johannesburg Sustainability Summit, where it really was focusing and driven by the global challenge to be sustainable. And during that time, it was not yet the climate change the driver, but still that is something which we still have as a joint global challenge. And that's something which between Africa and Europe, I think, is really something still we really have something to do together. So basically, we started 25 years ago to address the full value chain from the data availability, access of it, really making use of the European assets on that part from the Copernicus side. There's agreements in place between the European Commission, ESA, and the AFSA or AOC to make that happen. We have also some prototypes like Dunia to make sure that there's the particularities of the data access in Africa is being taken care of, like low bandwidth and so on. So these things are there. We also work on the R&D side, and you know the EU-Africa initiatives, and many of you are involved in that to make sure that we develop the right algorithms in co-design with African stakeholders. And then finally, you mentioned already the global development assistant part. So we really try to leverage international finance institutions to scale and bring impact to countries. And I think we are in the moment in 19 African countries active with this program, all saying that we need to work on different levels together, and the private sector is involved already. There is a long-term process, and yet now with the African EU Space Partnership Program, we have even more to do together. That is something which we really like to engage in. And Tanikile was already mentioning, we signed in April the MOU with the African Space Agency, and we're really proud to be the first space agency signing with you on the 20th of April. Being sister agencies across 2 continents is amazing. We do actually have quite a challenge. I mean, I'm just thinking about the 55 countries on the African side and many more on the European. So I think there is a lot of things to be taken care of in cooperation. and making sure that we consider the different contexts. Finally, we work together very closely together with DG INPA that is already sitting, I think, since 2017 on the GMS in Africa Policy Coordination Advisory Board. We make sure that we align our programs, that we work together, and now we also are more and more in coordination as implementing partner to DG INPA, bringing all the capabilities and expertise at ESA, but also very important, our experience working with you as an ecosystem, as a private sector ecosystem. So we really want to, and we come back, I think, to that later, to work through our tenders, working together with you, engaging you as private sector in the African context. And that is one of the big new tools which we will put in place with the new partnership program. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. Labali, you RPAG that you represent were there last year at EXPANDEO 2024, but nevertheless, many people here were not there. Please to better understand who you represent, please.
Thank you, Emmanuel. I would like to thank European Association of Remote Sensing Companies for the invitation. And again, I will give thank you for to welcome and for my co-panelists. About the RPAG is a network of African geomatics professionals. The aim of this network is to connect the players in the space sectors, academia, industry, research, private sectors, and public sectors, in aim to promote space companies and develop bridge between them and to help them, the companies, to develop the space market. Because in Africa, we know that we are many young, we are studying, we are developing many products, but sometimes they don't know what we are doing together. And the aims of this, the RPAG, is how we can develop the strategies to connect African youngs and African private sectors on space, to know between them, to develop the opportunities and to know more about the market, the space market. And also is to contribute to the reinforcement of the capacity of the members and to share the opportunities between the companies and the private sectors. And our members is on academia, is a startup, is a small companies, is a big companies, is students. We are in many countries in Africa. RPAG is created since 4 years, but now we have done many activities in Africa and about the activities to develop the strategies about how African companies should do to develop the products as the tools from space technologies for African context. But also, we work to develop the partnership between African companies and European companies or American companies to see what is the opportunities we have to work together about developing private sectors in Africa. Because space is very complex, it's very interesting, it's very large, and the collaboration is important. And our aims, our roles on the RPAG is to be a bridge between actors on spatial in Africa, and in Africa and in other continents. And we are very happy about the creation of the African Spatial Agency, and we think that is a good opportunity to African companies on private sectors, because they should do many things about the promotion of spatial market in Africa. Thank you.
To echo, could you please explain us a little bit more or give some insight about the component, the characteristic of the African landscape from the private sector point of view?
Yes, I think that I have today we have many companies in Africa, but we have doing studies just 2 months, and we see that many of African companies on spatial, they die after 1 year, because more of them don't know more about the market and the strategies to develop private sector. And we are working about how they should know about the needs of people. What is the needs of public sectors, and how we can develop the tools about the thematics. And the first is to have a demonstration project. And now in Africa, for RPAG companies, I have created Geomatica since 8 years now. But I have seen many experience about this, and I know that the best way is to know for whom we are developing the geospatial products. What is the technology's needs? What is the human's capacities? And what is the sustainability of your product? Because many of peoples come for just one shot, and I think that the one shot strategy is not the good strategy. You come to the market to be there for a long periods, and with many other companies. For me, in Africa, we have many opportunities on spatial opportunities, but we have to develop them. We have to communicate. We have to exchange with people about the opportunities, because many of the public sectors, they don't know what is spatial, what is space. They don't know them. We are the private sectors. You should train. You should exchange. You should communicate about what we are doing and what is the importance of what your technology is for them. As the first, they take some time, but it's very important, is the sensibilization period. And once people know about this, I think that they can go frequently. But for me, the landscape for me is an opportunity. But this opportunity is to develop, is to create, is to provocate. And the first or last about this is today how we can make a collaboration between the small companies from Africa and from Europe. How we can see about how see together this opportunity. How we can have a project, a demonstration of a small project, and after how we can go to the big project. But I think that the opportunity is here. The collaboration is necessary, and we have more to communicate more about decisions actors.
Thank you, Labali. So you expressed really clearly what are the needs and potentially the expectations. So we can go back to what, in fact, the SPP is about. Can you explain us what is currently the context of this SPP, on more the long-term vision that SPP here, please?
Sure. So
Okay.
Better with the mic. From DG INSPA, so we decided to build on existing program, as mentioned before, and we have secured funding for this new Africa-EU Space Partnership Program. We have secured 100 million to be implemented in the two-step approach. We have already selected implementing partners for the first part of the program, which is ESA sitting behind me, but also AFSA. And also from the African side, we have the African Union Commission implementing part of the program, and other European partners also implementing the different components, EUMETSAT and ECMWF. So we have quite a big representation of African and European partners implementing this program. From DG INPA, so we are leading the design of the program through this co-creation process, as we call it in the European Commission, really in consultation with so African European stakeholders, but also consultation with end users. The program is structured around 3 components. One is on space and institutional partnership. The second one is on space for early warning in Africa. And the third one is really focusing on space and private sector. So this is really important for DG INSPA to include in our new approach the private sector in all the different activities. So in terms of long-term vision, as it was highlighting, I think the main point is to have, as I was also mentioning, so transformative activities, actions, programs to reach sustainability, and also to comply with this new approach in the European Commission is to have this new focus on private sector investment, also liaising with banks, with new technologies. We talked also about artificial intelligence. I think these are all the different topics that we are looking in the long term, again, through our Global Gateway strategy. We have also, in terms of these transformative activities, what we would like to achieve, and finally, is also to contribute to the SDGs. I think this is one of the main points that we would like to achieve. Of course, we have our short-term, let's say short-term activities through the space program. We are talking about a duration of 4 years. Now with the second part, it will be 4 additional years. But then in the long term, with all our programs in international partnerships, we think to contribute to the SDGs. And the space program is focusing mainly on SDG 9, which is industry, infrastructure, innovation. But of course, we are contributing to all other SDGs, climate change, water, ocean, food security, as you know. So, and we know that there's a big financial gap to reach these SDGs, and what is needed is private sector. So this is really important in the long term. Without the private sector, we will not be able to achieve the SDGs. So this is really important, an important point in terms of this long-term vision. We also needed, so in terms of this private sector, let's say involvement in the program, we see 2 main aspects as a potential involvement. The first one is more within the program, is how to achieve some of the activities that we see. So it could be contributing to provide technical assistance, to provide studies, for example, in the new space. So this would be one of the main let's say, role of the private sector that we can see in the program and later. And the other one would be on building on program results. So to create additional opportunities. So really to have this multiplier effect based on the program, but really to be able to create more opportunities, more funding opportunities, more partnerships, and to have to achieve more long-term results.
Thank you. Going back to Her Excellency Tandikile, how do you foresee the involvement of AFSA to stimulate this involvement of the African private sector in this project, in this program?
Thank you very much, Manuel. In terms of going forward, we really think that there are key areas that and specific roles that AFSA, as the African Space Agency, has to play. One, in facilitating and creating the enabling environment for both the private sector and the public sector to efficiently and effectively utilize space technology. So going forward, we look at a critical role for AFSA to stimulate the continental Earth observation market. Trying to work to unlock Africa's untapped EO private sector potentially by building local capabilities, fostering entrepreneurship, and strengthening African and European cooperation. I see a lot has been mentioned about some of the challenges that we have inevitably, and what you realize is that the task we have ahead of us as the African Space Agency is particularly large because we have 55 countries which we oversee, which are at different levels of development in terms of the space sector. Some are totally unaware of it, and others are, sort of already established, well-established space agencies. So you look at it as one of the critical roles of AFSA is to work towards raising the awareness. I think my colleague mentioned earlier the issue, the challenge about people being aware of the need for space sciences and space solutions. So there's awareness raising, there's the establishment of the legal and regulatory environments, and building up the human capacity. Now, the opportunity for both the our partners, the European partners, and Africa is enormous, because Africa will be is the next growth area in Earth observation, and we really look at working to accelerate innovation, creating hackathons, creating commercial pathways, and laying the foundation for a sustainable Earth observation area sector. And we look at both their specific needs from both the African private sector and the European private sector, which are obviously different. The European private sector being more established, we would look at increased public and private sector investment, supporting industrial strategy, more co-creation in terms of working with the emerging African private sector. But the African private sector inevitably will be looking at capacity, skills development, innovation and business support, and sustainable financing and market access. A key function of the space program for the African continent is, of course, to align and work to elevate and facilitate the achievement of the SDGs and alignment, as Catherine mentioned, with the SDGs. So that is a critical area that we are looking at. But in terms of opportunities and co-creation, we look at working in a manner where we're co-creating and collaborating. So the shared expectations from both sides would be ensuring that we have knowledge transfer between the two continents. But while we say that, I think being such a huge expecting market, potential market, there is so much scope for people to establish partnerships with African private sector. But we also look at ensuring that we're gender sensitive and inclusive, and we, as an African continent and as AU, are always very keen to ensure that we are also working to encourage youth and gender in the sector. So in summary, we really look at the private sector, expecting capacity building, innovation support, sustainable financing. There's obviously a need for a lot of that investment, but the African Space Agency will be looking at working with the member states to establish that legal and regulatory environment in which space technologies and solutions can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. About 1 month ago, ESA and ERSC were in Abidjan in order to establish the first matchmaking, support the matchmaking between African and European companies. So, Benjamin, can you give us, so it's highlight that the SPP is already live, it's already moving forward. Can you give us more information about what we could say short-term, short opportunities coming from ESA?
No, great. And yes, it was a short-term action to be already active, let's say, was it 10 days, I think, after the launch, the official launch, we already had the first activity in Abidjan. And thanks, Emmanuel, to help from the European side to make the right actors. You guys, I think there was 10 European companies in Abidjan already matching their interest with African ones. And I just wanted to highlight from the beginning on, this is really a partnership program. So there is a joint work program, there's a joint activity approach as well, together with AFSA. So all of what we are doing here is together, hand in hand with AFSA, and trying to engage also the private sector of Africa. So just to be clear, all what I will be saying now in the next few minutes is, is also eligible for African countries. All the countries who are or entities who can bid for these activities are European Union member states, ESA member states, and African Union member states. So that is really already a co-designed approach, let's say, to make sure that we make out of that a partnership program. So short-term actions. AFSA and ESA is responsible for the institutional pillar and also the private sector pillar. So very shortly to institutional pillar, there we try to work between the two space agencies to identify priorities, not only for Earth observation, actually also for navigation, also for communication and space science. That might go a bit beyond what we discussed here today, but that is something which is also giving us a vision to go beyond what we're doing in the moment. Going beyond what we're doing in the moment, we always have been doing a lot of things in science, R&D, climate in Africa, but here private sector was always, like, let's say, engaged, but not the focus. And this is what we're doing now differently. And we have a number of elements here to launch, and it's not going to be easy, and I really also look to work together with you on that. So we understand also from the interventions from our African colleagues here on the panel, you need to have awareness, you need to have understanding what business cases are and what we can do with Earth observation in the African context. So there will be a whole range of training and capacity development for African companies. That's one thing, but it's not a standalone thing. So we really would like to engage that together also what there is the Earth observation challenge already ongoing in Africa. So we will work with these kind of calls together and make sure that there is, let's say, innovation coming into this context, but building on the ideas, building on the trainings, we also would like to then follow up with these companies over a mentoring program, and even including some grants, for small grants for African companies. So that is not just something which is on-off in the event, it's actually a process. And we know that in Europe it's a long-term process, it will be in Africa the same. That will be launched very soon as well. And then we also try something pretty new. On the continent, all what I said up to now was continental level. We would like to bring also a business innovation lab into one of the African countries, trying to leverage and piloting the experience we have done with the ESA-FI lab and the BICS in Europe. So trying that to bring into the African context. I think we have a lot of things to learn there. The context is different, it's very diverse, it's very applied, I think, so we really need to think about different ways of working. And we will, on both sides, learn a lot to make that perhaps even scale to other countries. On the national, also on the continental, there will be always matchmaking events, just like Emmanuel was already saying, so that the European actors will be always engaged on a continuous level over the next 4 years. And then we would like to take it one step even further. We want to go not only focusing on downstream, we want to also look upstream. So that's the big one. So we're starting slowly. We have a kind of, there will be a tender to have a co-designed small sat. So we bring it up to phase A, so the whole, like a business case plus a critical design review up so we have a complete satellite design ready, but it has to be done with a joint African and European consortium, and that will be a requirement in the tender. And all that is what I just said. It's basically 5 ESA procurement rules driven tenders, which will come out in the next few weeks. 2 of them are already announced. The total volume is about 8.2 million euros, so it's really something which is quite substantial. We do look forward for your contributions, and I really would like to emphasize that you hopefully can bring African partners into that, because that's where we both will learn and make the next step to it. One last thing which I want to add here is we also have one national activity in Nigeria where we will look into Earth observation for climate smart applications, and that is also going to be part of the next few weeks of tenders coming out. So I think that is
great.
Quite some short-term opportunities.
Great, and for sure. And you can count on ERSC and for sure APAG as well to support you being INPA, AFSA, and ESA to support in this action. Labali, how do you see potentially this the collaboration between APAG, ERSC in order to facilitate the connection? Do you have already some thought about how we could facilitate this, disseminate this information, support this matchmaking? Can you hear me, Labali?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Thank you. Thank you. I think that there's a collaboration between Africans and European companies. I think that it's a need. It's a need because many of African companies are in Africa. They need
oops, frozen. Yes, unfortunately.
Capacities, and also I think that. Do you hear me?
It's not good.
Do you hear me?
Not very well, fortunately.
So. Okay.
So no, it's okay. So we are close to the end of the session already, unfortunately. So maybe a last question to AFSA and INPA about the call for action. What kind of action do you expect? What do you want from the companies, both sides in Africa and Europe, in order to help you to design what could be the future activities on the more longer term?
I'll start. Yeah.
Please.
Yes, what call to action? I think the first point, and it was already mentioned clearly by Benjamin, is to create a joint partnership between African and European actors ecosystem. This is really the key and the basis. At European level, we encourage to work at team national level. This is a new, maybe not new for you, concept that we are using at the European Commission. So really to work with the different actors at national level. So what we encourage you to do is to map out your national institution, to create links, to make yourself visible to them, to talk to them, and to arrive to a joint, let's say, offer from your country. So this is an important point, I think, at European level that we really appreciate to work at team national. Then, as actions, but you mentioned already, is to participate in the different space Earth observation related events, like the MAS you mentioned. I think is really an important way of getting knowing each other and to strengthen already the partnerships that are already existing. Maybe here just to mention the partnerships that you have with the D4D, and for example in Cairo, that it's really important also to have this private sector dialogue. So it's also important for you to be part of this dialogue. Then, of course, to be aware of all the funding opportunities. Benjamin mentioned that short-term, what are the funding opportunities from ESA? But as I was mentioning also, there are other partners in the program, implementing partners in the Africa-EU space program, like EUMETSAT and ECMWF, that will also launch some calls. There will be an information session next week on the 18th of June. So we can facilitate the link to that, because it's also a way of knowing other funding opportunities, and maybe on a broader scale. Also, I think as call for action is to always be aware of what is being done at the level of the European Commission, and for example, this Global Gateway Investment Platform that will become operational by the end of the year. So this also would be a mean to be linked to other maybe funding opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you. Her Excellency Tandikile, as we are streamed, so we have African attendees as well. Do you have a message to these African companies how to support you in the making of this ambitious program? Really briefly, we are really short of time, unfortunately.
Okay, no, thank you very much. Yes, no, as I think a lot of the points have been covered in terms of making oneself visible, positioning oneself as a strategic partner. And we really look at critical areas. There are areas where we as AFSA would be looking to help create those databases of EO companies on the continent, because at the moment, I think things are very, very, they're not unified. You can't find information in a single area. It's very, very difficult to find them. They're all in pockets. So, but we look at following through on the opportunities that are coming up. And, we really look at the African partner, private sector, to look at seizing opportunity, to continue to track what is happening in the sector, participate in, I think most of the points have been mentioned, participation in different fora, networking fora, and working to identify solutions to local challenges. The strategic positioning yourselves as strategic partners is really critical, both for the African and the European private sector. Looking at actively working to engage in sort of champion any opportunities for co-creation and co-development and innovation. Looking at integrating African Earth observation partners in your R&D consortia, co-developing tools with African companies. So while we're building the capacity, we actually find that we have a lot of young people who have the capacity, but not the opportunity. So we really would speak to the private sector, working towards supporting, sort of looking at using African youth in some of their innovation and work. As I've always found, because the thing is, when you look at it, it's a new market, it's a developing market, and the critical element is to really, it will not grow on its own. It needs that push from the private sector. But as we develop the market, we need input and feedback as to what works and what doesn't work. So both African and the European private sector should be involved in understanding and appreciating the policy to ensure that the policy speaks to their needs in terms of creating that enabling environment. So looking at policy, influencing policy through engagement to shape the regulatory frameworks. But when you look at it, ultimately, the European market is more mature, but the new and emerging African market provides a huge opportunity. So for both sides, I think there's strength and opportunity in looking at working together. The Earth observation adoption is largely at the moment donor funded through international collaborations, but there are key sectors in which it can be utilized in the private sector. So there's a strong need to look at that and look at opportunities. And to me, ultimately, Africa represents the biggest untapped Earth observation market globally. And with Europe, the combination of Europe's mature technology and service capability, it creates a complementary opportunity for growth, innovation, market expansion through mutual partnerships under initiatives like the EU Space Partnership Program and all the collaboration that we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We are already short of time, unfortunately, so we have to stop the session. I would like to thank all the panelists. A round of applause to all of them, please. And